Hello? Are you okay?
Hello.
What is up with you, dude?
Info 7.
Hello. Shadow
What
Libra.
is going on?
Hi, Sandwich Man. I'm streaming right now.
Hello, Sandwich.
Oh, hello, audience.
Libra's not doing so well, I don't think.
I'm fine.
Are we sure?
I'm great. I am great, starting with a P.
I have no idea what's actually happening right now with Libra. I think he's going insane.
Listen,
well.
this morning, right, I woke up.
Yeah.
And I did a
And it all went downhill from there, clearly.
And then,
Yeah.
after that, I went to my grandmother's house.
Uh-huh.
And she told me that I will never be able to bake cookies as good as hers. And that made me sad.
Okay,
I want to know how
understandable.
to bake cookies too.
Yeah.
So,
of course.
my grandmother said that the best thing I could do for myself is move to Venus. So,
Oh.
I'm trying to figure out how to do that right now.
Are you sure you're not already there? Because it seems like it's frying your brain.
Yeah, I think so too. There might be an alien behind you.
An alien.
There's more than one alien behind
There's
me.
more than one. Okay.
There's my proof right there. So anyway,
So,
There's
Anyway.
a few aliens.
Sandwich Man, what resident mimic hater, or how are you feeling about Secret of the Mimic?
I have not kept up too much for various reasons, but
Uh-huh.
I am excited. I do think that it looks pretty good.
Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, I haven't given two shits about that. I'm not gonna lie.
I am planning on getting it. I just haven't yet.
Yeah, I will eventually, but I have basically like kind of just been gone from the FNaF community for a little while for various reasons.
Yeah.
Both personal and just lost a bit of interest. But
Fair enough.
I'm still on VC occasionally chatting about stuff, so
Yeah.
yeah. I'll probably upload videos maybe after the summer. I know it'll be like a year or so, but I mean that's assuming that college is not going to take up a hell of a lot of time, which it will.
Yeah, I got university too, and work, so
Yeah.
starting
Yeah,
in September.
You would understand, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm just graduating high school now. Like in
Bro,
like a
really,
month.
That was
I
my
am-
sister.
In a month, I'm graduating. Have you seen the MCM archives at all, or no?
No, what is that?
You want to
Joel's been
watch them right now?
posting, like, small little Secret of the Mimic.
It's
kinda like
basically
the
Freddy and Friends,
stuff.
but for Secret of the Mimic.
Oh, sick! Yeah.
Want to watch
I'll
with us? Want to watch right now? I've
Let's
seen
do
all
it.
three. And we can
I've
do
also
our
seen all three.
yeah.
I've done videos on all three.
I
Am
have
I
as
gonna-
well.
So how is it
Deal.
big or small?
It's not.
It's pretty small.
It's not massive, but
honestly.
it's interesting though.
You look terrible. I'm
Oh.
exhausted. So much to do by morning. I'll never be ready for my big presentation. All I want to do is sleep. Why sleep when you can stay up latte? Stay up late? No, latte. It's new, for night. Try it. Oh, distinctive taste. Rich and roasted, yet creamy and sweet. Give me more. That's my secret recipe. The Stay Up Latte creates the perfect cup of coffee suited to you, based on your coffee habits.
I know what you want better than you do.
I know what that reference is.
Have another cup. Have another cup. Have another cup. Have another
Morning. Did you
Oh, whoa,
stay
what
up
was
all
that?
night?
Don't worry, we'll go
I
back.
missed it.
I stayed
I
up.
missed it.
Latte. After 2 full pots, I'm ready to work. Promotion, here I come. That's the very difference.
And that's the end.
This is FNaF.
Yup.
What the hell is that?
Yep.
That's 5
Okay,
Nights
whoa.
at
What was the?
Freddy's.
Hold on. Well, I gotta see the thing. Yeah. in
Yeah,
the
don't
middle
worry.
there.
We'll go back. We're just gonna go back through it. So what's your initial thought of just like what it could indicate?
I have no clue, but first thing I gotta say is that's FNaF.
Yup.
That's FNaF.
Uh huh.
So when So when I was playing Five Nights at Freddy's 3 like 10 years ago, I never expected that would be a thing that existed. So
Up Latte.
Okay, so
that was very fascinating. The coffee reference, I think, is pretty clearly a reference to coffee from like
yeah.
Scott's earlier games in FNaF World, which I like. I think that's pretty cool. But other than that, I have no clue how to process that at all. Like,
Basically,
I don't even know what's going on.
It's showing things that Edwin made. It's just a question of when he made them and what it means, right?
Sure.
So, before anything else, I just want to bring up this small thing. Right here. This thing right here. It's like just a small thing, like at the beginning of each one.
Right.
And what I've noticed is there's this number here, right? On the bottom right.
Right.
And it changes in each video. It's different in all three.
Okay.
And I remember people talking about how the wall code was found based on something in Freddy and Friends. I have no idea what it was or how, but that's what I heard people talk about. So, if this is like the Freddy and Friends for Secret of the Mimic, then that would indicate there might be something in these cartoons that are gonna be important for Secret of the Mimic. So, with this number changing all the time, with each video, I'm thinking it might be some kind of code or something that will be used in Secret of the Mimic.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, they did sort of did that. I mean, the things that they showed, I mean, in Freddy and Friends got, like, progressively more important for the series, I think, right?
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, there was, like, a lot of different, like, songs and stuff that, like, related to different stuff.
Right, yeah. I mean, well, to be fair, Blob was extremely important. I mean, well, looking back on it, maybe not so much, but that was first. But either way, it's interesting. So he made coffee, basically, which here's what I think. If the game ends up coming out and there's like plug in a code and it's like a bunch of letters, then like I assume you would want to plug those in, maybe, or I don't know. That's just an idea of what
it's also
it might be.
It's also a 7-digit code, and there's a dash after the third number, so it could be like a phone number. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Like it's three digits dash and then 4 digits. That's usually like the layout for phone numbers. So like,
and they might, there might be one that like we'll end up calling. It'll have like a voice message or something like that.
Kind of like an Into the Pit. There was phone numbers in Into the Pit too. I wonder.
Yeah. You know what? I'll have the numbers written down when Secret of the Mimic comes out, just in case I need to just pull that up quickly.
Imagine we can go back to Into the Pit right now and then use the phone and put these numbers in, and it gives us something. Honestly, I doubt it'll be anything, but we could try.
I strongly doubt it. I think that if it meant something,
I think it definitely won't.
I
it would be found by
completely doubt it. Yeah, probably. But yeah, that was one thing that I wanted to know. Also, it's obviously says E. Murray, Edwin Murray.
Right.
No, it stands for Emily Murray.
Oh, like right. My bad. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're working together, guys.
So there's a calendar in the background. It's only 5 days. I guess there's no weekends.
Until the party.
We are on Wednesday, so I don't know if that means anything.
Secret of the Mimic actually going to be 5 nights instead of Security Breach, which is 1.
I have no idea. This man has a purple bow tie. This man has a purple bow tie.
I'm exhausted.
Very strange lip movements. There's this here. Kind of hard to tell what it is, but it looks like some location that will be in Secret of the Mimic, right?
I don't even know if we can.
It's really hard to see.
Do the old FNaF teaser principle stuff where you brighten it up.
Yeah, I tried that, but it's really hard to see because of like the image that's still there, you know.
I was about to say someone's probably done that by now.
Yeah. Listen to what the coffee maker says, because it's really important.
I know what you want better than you do. I am always watching and learning. How they know they're come. How they know they're come. How they know they're come.
Did you get it?
I'm always watching. Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I'm always watching and learning.
Was in Help Wanted 2? Wasn't?
Yeah.
I remember in Help Wanted 2 during like any of the private rooms levels on the camera, it would like randomly say "always watching."
Yes, it did. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Like I am watching
I did
or something, something like that.
Like that just occurred to me as well.
It might be hinting. The program is more extensively used.
Was it I am watching or was it we are watching?
I thought it was just like always watching or something.
It might be always watching. I don't know. Something like that.
That sounds familiar. He's
Yeah.
here and always watching. The one you should not. I'm kidding. No,
Yeah.
guys, coffee, wake me up latte is actually the
The
one,
one
you
you
should
should not have killed. Love that.
Yeah, we
also-
got it wrong all these years.
There's this thing here. This is, I think it's Dolly, right? The nurse.
Oh, that is Dolly.
People
What
are
are the
saying
two
it's
eyes,
Dolly.
though?
I don't really see Dolly.
It's
be
hard to tell,
honest.
but I
That
think
is-
like the shape
I think it's
of
the
like
arm,
the
yeah.
arms especially, yeah.
Maybe okay.
And the hat.
Maybe the hat looks like an ear to me. I guess that's why I wasn't seeing Dolly.
There's something on the left too. Can't really tell what that is. It looks like a sign of some kind, but I don't know what.
I don't know. It kind of looks like Logbook Chica, but I don't. That might be a stretch.
I thought at first that
but-
it was a Chica too.
But it would be interesting if they this game ends up shedding some light on Logbook Chica because Logbook Chica still we have no clue what it means at all, and yet it's in the most important thing in the whole
Yeah.
series, or one of the most important
And-
things at least.
Also,
And
we know that
kinda looks
Edwin
like
made a Bonnie and a Chica.
Yeah, exactly.
I think did he start a Freddy? I don't remember, but I know he made a Bonnie and a Chica.
Well, there's Helper. So I guess that counts as Freddy.
Well, yeah, but I think in the book he might have started a Freddy animatronic, but I don't remember. It might have just been Chica and Bonnie, but
Yeah.
I
don't remember either.
But Edwin making Chica and Bonnie, we know Henry made the original animatronic, so they probably wouldn't be the originals, meaning that
Sure.
anything can happen to them. So if Bonnie
Yeah.
and Chica do appear in Edwin's workshop, that works perfectly fine, and anything can happen to them, meaning that the Chica could technically become Logbook Chica.
Which I think would be really interesting.
It'd be a
because
nice
then we could
payoff
actually.
years later.
Right. Well, here's another thing that I would not be surprised at. I made this observation. It's kind of loose, but also kind of not. If we have, as Wake Me Up Latte is sort of suggesting, that the program is like in everything Edwin uses or whatever, you'll notice that and you connect it with Help Wanted 2 and stuff, you'll notice in Help Wanted 1 that Logbook Chica's position is kind of like very similar to Chica's position in the Parts and Service.
Like, was
And
she
so
sitting?
I'm wondering,
Like how she's like sitting? You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they're mimicking if it's mimicking positions within the game that's like similar to what everything is going on in Edwin's workshop area and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can
Because
see
we don't
that.
really
yeah.
ever get clarification on what else he's using the technology for when he creates the program.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people
Like,
say.
we know-
Because in the Mimic story, he says that the Mimic technology, the Mimic program, could be used for a lot of different useful stuff. So a lot of people have been saying
Didn't
that.
he have like a
and then-
line
yeah.
saying like maybe he could get his company back using it?
I don't
do
remember.
something like that. But what I do also remember is yes, we get a mention of that and then nothing else. Like no other clarification on what he's invented or using it. It's like it's very odd that it's in there and then just we don't talk about it anymore.
A lot of people
Stuff.
have just been saying that like it could be that after the Mimic is destroyed, Edwin goes missing, and then eventually he comes back, and then there's an overhaul of his factory, and then he makes these things, like this invention, and then the next one. That's what a
Okay.
lot of people
Wait,
have been
wait, wait.
saying. But I have a different idea, but
That-
I'll only explain it after we watch the next two, okay?
Sure.
Because
One
it'll
thing
make a
to
lot
say,
more
though-
sense. It'll make a lot more sense once we watch the next two.
Alright.
This is Murray's magic coat rack, okay?
All right.
Also, another number.
Are your clothes creating a catastrophic pile? Is your family
Yep.
distraught by the untidy nature of your house? The solution is here, friends. Murray's
That actually
Magic
is me
Coat
for
Rack.
real
Adjust
right now.
for any size
That was
of
me
clothing,
yesterday.
Jackets, hats, cardigans, blazers, bags, shawls, scarves, and more. It'll even hold your pots and pans, or your pet, or you, if you're feeling down. Order several.
Oh,
That was it.
oh, all right then.
Did you get it?
Did I get what exactly?
I'll play it again. Just stay quiet and just listen to what he's saying.
Murray's Magic Coat Rack adjusts for any size of clothing, jackets, hats, cardigans.
Get it?
Jackets, hats, and
No.
Rack adjusts for any size of clothing.
Oh God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
There you
yeah.
go.
Yeah, I got it. It took,
You got
a
it.
little bit.
You got it.
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, I get it.
He can
Okay.
expand and contract. So the first
Wait,
thing,
okay.
huh? Who's there? Is that
That's Sentry.
Sentry?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll get.
so again,
Yo.
it's like it implies that this coat rack would have the same pistons that the Endo did.
Yeah. So here's the thing. This one expands and contracts just like the Mimic. The Latte machine says it's always watching and learning, just
Yep.
like the Mimic. So both of these things have features that the Mimic has,
Indeed.
right? Also, people say in the background of this, there's actually like a different like audio playing over it, where there's basically like a guy talking about how the Mimic has, or like how something has its leg or something. It's hard to hear. I didn't really hear it perfectly, but that's what a lot of people are talking about. What I'm wondering, will there be one more MCM archive? Because next week, because there's one more Friday, and then the Friday after that is Secret of the Mimic's actual release. So it seems
Yeah,
like there will be
probably.
one more in
Yeah,
between.
definitely.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I wonder
I
what that
agree.
will be. Oh, hey, it's Altera.
Hey, what's Draw?
Hey, how's it going?
We are streaming right now, or I am streaming, and these guys are here for it. Basically,
Right.
I was explaining
First
the
two
whole
are
thing.
interesting.
Yeah, I was explaining the whole thing about just like how the features of these two things are like related to the Mimic, and I told him that I'd explain my theory after the third one because the third one strengthens it a lot more.
Okay.
All right, sounds good.
Well,
Let's see it.
me and Evan already had a debate about this before, but we have opposing theories on this. So, like, after he gives you, I'll give my alternate interpretation of it.
Ooh,
Yeah,
fun.
I have a couple interesting things to note about this whole thing. So,
Okay.
so yeah, the last one is called Clean-O-Vac. So
what now?
Clean-O-Vac.
You know why that's familiar?
Sandwich Man. It's an Edwin creation.
Oh,
and it's a
hello.
robotic
Oh.
vacuum
Whoa,
cleaner.
Whoa, what? Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. All right then. All right, let's see this.
Are you looking for the perfect vacuum cleaner? There are so many to choose from, but none of them fit every corner of your home. Introducing the brand new revolutionary advancement in vacuum technology, Murray's Marvelous Clean-O-Vac. Never before could a vacuum adjust its size to fit into hard-to-reach places. Patented Murray Tech allows you to clean everything from the biggest messes to the smallest crumbs. One size fits all. And what you really need most in a vacuum cleaner is friendship. Your family will love the new addition. Mom, you won't have to leave the kitchen for the house to be spotless. And your kids will have a friend for life. Murray's Marvelous Clean-O-Vac.
Oh, what?
Order one today and make your family a happy one.
Not Mr. Hugs. It didn't.
It's
it
just an
wasn't
old-fashioned
Mr. Hugs. It looked
vacuum.
like it. Yeah.
I just want to mention, I did for a thumbnail put Mr. Hugs and the Clean-O-Vac like facing each other, and they have like the same arm stretched wide out.
Yeah, they have pretty
pose.
similar
So-
designs in some areas.
Oh,
Do
that's
they?
another thing I'll bring up later when we're done.
So, thoughts?
Yeah. Interesting. That definitely is not Mr. Hugs though.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is the vacuum cleaner that Edwin made that
Yes.
was like his first big success, basically.
It could be like a 70s version of Mr. Hugs.
Yeah, probably. Because he does have like the different version, the one that's more like a Roomba in like the Five Nights at Freddy's demo. So that seems like it's probably like a later edition of it or something.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like that alone should be really good evidence for Tales games, but you know,
I agree.
whatever.
I agree. So I mentioned earlier that a lot of people have been suggesting that this stuff is after he made the Mimic, and like after he made the Mimic, he disappeared, and then he comes back. He refurbishes like his whole factory, and then makes more stuff using the Mimic program and like its features and stuff. Altera, that's what you were talking to me about last week. So you
Yes,
want to explain your perspective right now?
Okay, yes. So
I object
my-
to that as well.
Yeah. So basic. What did you say, Sandwich?
I just said I object to that. But go
Oh
ahead.
my God. Edwins makes a very important comment, and then that's that he explains that if things go well, like the mimic functions like as it should with David and stuff, then he thinks he can use its like ability and what it does essentially, or at the very least at the time of the program, to basically bring his company back and make it bigger again, and just use it by using it for a whole bunch of stuff. And I personally feel like this is meant to be more towards that, because one, Evan says that it's like, well, this is just his old inventions, and then it's his, like, he kind of sort of implies that he just built the mimic from old stuff he had.
I'll explain that further.
Okay. So
I agree with
my
Evan.
my issue with that is that, like, well, what's really the point of that? From a story perspective, okay, so Edwin made old stuff that had similar functions to the mimic, and he made it out of that. Like, there's really no important narrative purpose for, like, showing us all this. Now, if the purpose, he made all these things after the mimic, and it was what he used to get his company. If he used it to bring his company back, I feel like that would be a more important reason to show us this, because it actually gives us an explanation from how he went from basically nothing to something big between the events of at least the first half of the mimic story and by the time of Secret of the Mimic.
So,
which is, I feel like, what this whole game is more focused on.
I have multiple thoughts. So
do I, yeah.
First of all, one other thing we didn't mention, Sandwich. This vacuum cleaner can, like, kind of get into hard-to-reach areas, just like the Mimic, how he can get into the vents and stuff, and, like, with his expanding and contracting stuff. And also, this vacuum is meant to be a friend to your kids, just like the Mimic. If you take into account all the inventions, they all have features of the Mimic. What I just said with the vacuum cleaner, with the coffee, it was always watching and learning, and with the coat hanger, the expanding and contracting, right? So if you take all that into account, it's all features of the Mimic. Altera was talking about how it doesn't really serve much of a purpose to show this stuff, but I would disagree, because first of all, it's mostly just a teaser, but second of all, it gives people that didn't read the books, like, it gives them, like, the knowledge about it, right? But on top of that, this is what I'm thinking, that Edwin actually used these creations for the construction of the Mimic. That's actually supported in the Mimic story itself. I will pull up the exact quote, okay?
I think we're thinking of the same quote.
I don't know if you heard it from me, because I mentioned it in the group chat last week, but I will explain it.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
The reason why I lean towards your position over Altera's.
Yeah.
In the storyteller, you say he, like, kind of just disappeared for like 40 years and then ended up coming back way later. He explicitly says that. He explicitly says he comes back way later. Now, if that's the case, why are they featuring inventions that would suggest that he came back way earlier than, like, however long it took for him to come back?
He came back to Fazbear Entertainment 30 years later, not that he became successful again, which he certainly wasn't by the time of the storyteller.
I'm definitely open to him returning and, like, rebuilding his business and stuff. I think he's still owned by Fazbear Entertainment, but, like, he could still make his own stuff. Like, I'm not opposed to that.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where I'm looking at it from, basically.
I don't think that's necessarily true, but I'm not completely opposed to that. But I don't think that these things are those inventions that he made after. Because, like I said, they're basically, the stuff in them is in the Mimic. And here's why. I have the quote now, and I'll explain all this stuff, and then I'll let you talk again, Altera. But so here's the quote. By pulling wiring from rooms that he never used, taking pistons from a defunct industrial washing machine, and borrowing steel and spools and gears and springs from the levers machine, Edwin had fashioned the torso, arms, and head of a primitive-looking endoskeleton. This physical housing was the easy part. Once Edwin had constructed the legless robot, he had to build the computer for it. This he did by stealing hardware from some of his abandoned projects.
Oh, okay.
Let's go.
Now,
True.
but before Altera talks again, what I want to say is, first of all, I'm thinking that all these, besides the vacuum, are his old inventions that didn't end up panning out perfectly, And so he either scrapped them or they just didn't sell well, so he just used them later on for the Mimic. And
So we were not thinking of the same quote, but you kind of added on to the quote I was thinking of.
okay, I'll pass it on to Altera once I'm done talking, and then back to you so that you can continue to. The Clean-O-Vac obviously was successful, so he still used that. But the other ones, I feel like because the Clean-O-Vac was the one that was the most successful, the other two probably weren't very successful. And what's really important here, I'm going to show you something. Go on to the Steelable Studios channel page and look at all of the thumbnails. What do you notice about the thumbnails?
They all say Secret of the Mimic,
Yeah.
which is obvious. They have discs, which, yeah.
VHS tapes.
Well, no, that's not true. They only have...
Here's the
Murray's
Clean-O-Vac,
Costume
right?
Manor.
It has it has that. The Murray's Costume Manor paper. It has it in all three. But what you notice is that on the Stay Up Latte one, the paper is yellow. It's more dirty and more old. On this one, it is
okay.
It's white again. It's white now, but it's still a little bit dirty. On Clean-O-Vac, it's clean. So
Okay, so are you saying that they are progressively less old?
yeah, I'm saying that Stay Up Latte is the oldest one. And if the Clean-O-Vac happened before the Mimic, which it had to because it was his first successful invention, then that means that the coat rack and the latte were before the Clean-O-Vac, meaning that they were also before the Mimic. And what's also important, another reason that it would be important to show these in the first place, the Mimic was never built with the expanding and contracting thing being an intentional part of it. Edwin didn't make it for that purpose, but it still had that. So knowing that he used his older inventions for parts for the Mimic indicates that that's how he got that ability. Because we don't know how he got it in the books, so if he had an invention that had that ability and then he added that to the Mimic, then that explains why it has it without it being the main feature of it. So it is important.
That is a plausible explanation, but
So
I want to hear Altera.
Here are all my issues with these things. One, first of all, is something I want to point out is you made that quote, right? And it says it talks about how he built the Mimic's physical body.
Yeah, and that was
And
like all the
it
stuff
doesn't-
around it, yeah.
And then it doesn't really mention anything about using like the old inventions for the arms or anything like the coat rack or whatever.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
stuff. Yeah. And then it says another important thing is that
It said that he used it for the computer, indicating that
Yes,
that has
exactly.
something to do with like.
Yes.
But if it's for the
Mhm.
computer, then that indicates that it's something to do with like how it actually functions and moves.
Yeah.
So like it
it's-
still does
see,
make
an
sense for the
interesting-
expanding and contracting to be
see,
part of it.
See, an interesting thing is that the whole thing with the Mimic program is that when he creates it using, I guess, old hardware and stuff, it says he has to teach it how to interact with David and like watch him and be a friend and stuff. Whereas if we go by this vacuum thing, it already knows how to like just interact with a kid. So if he used its hardware, then the Mimic should already just be good at being a friend and stuff. At least that's the way it seems like.
Yeah,
like
that's fair. I think
knowledge
that,
should already be programmed into it.
I get that. I think that the idea though is
Yeah.
that because it's for the computer, and he's not making the program itself out of this, he's making the computer out of it. So it would have this stuff built into it, but it wouldn't be the main feature, so it would still make sense if he had to like kind of train it to adopt these properties because they're not meant to be the main property.
Sure.
Evan,
I guess.
something
so-
that's
so-
quoted in the Mimic is
Yeah, what's up?
perhaps because the idea was inspired, or perhaps because Edwin was so desperate to find a way to take care of David without actually having to take care of David, Edwin was able to write the code for the program at nearly the speed of light.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the program wanted to be written, so it helped him create it. So he wrote the program pretty easily, too.
Yeah.
And these things all have stuff that the Mimic
That's on the same
that
page,
like
by the
are
way.
part
as
of the
the one
Mimic's
that I-
program.
This is an ad, and ads love to be falsely advertised. So they could be very much over exaggerating that how much Clean-O-Vac is going to be a friend to you basically. Which it seems as though that if Edwin had created the code better for Mimic 1, that he had already had some experience with kind of making characters that are sort of like friends. So because of that respect, I would probably lean a bit more towards Evan's position here.
Yeah, I think for its like personality and stuff, it's that he used his experience with those kinds of programs for making the Mimic 1 program, but for the physical stuff, like the expanding and contracting, then that's just like the parts that he used for the computer, and then that's why it had that kind of built in. So that would make sense. What would you Altera, what would you say about like the timing though? Like about the Clean-O-Vac, it has to be before the Mimic, and Up Latte is older.
So that's the thing where the Hugs thing and the Mr. Hugs comes in to the play, because we have two different vacuum cleaners that have been made by Edwin. So we know at the very least there wasn't only one singular one he made.
Well, yeah.
Now wait,
hold on. Yeah, I was about to say, do we really know that Edwin made Mr. Hugs?
Okay, we don't know that he made Mr. Hugs, but we know that he made the Hug.
We know he made the Hug.
Yeah, but I think that because they're so similarly named, they would be next to each other. Like, so the Clean-O-Vac has no similarity to the name Hug. So it seems like it would be the prototype, the one that he made first, and then the Hug would have then evolved into Mr. Hugs later on.
Well, wait, what? Okay.
No, I'm just saying that the naming scheme, it seems more like it would be weird if Clean-O-Vac was in between either of them.
I'm looking at this from like a technological advancement standpoint. The Hug on the surface, you think, well, okay, a Roomba, it's more future, more advanced and stuff than, say, the Clean-O-Vac. But ultimately, a Roomba is a thing that just kind of moves across the floor and vacuums things. Like, according to this, the Clean-O-Vac can, like, be your friend, expand and change its size to suck different things, seemingly has, like, an intelligence of its own in ways and stuff, and I feel like that's a lot more advanced than just a Roomba. So I could see the Hug being the first one, and the Clean-O-Vac being the second one.
We also don't necessarily know, though, that the Hug doesn't have those abilities or more advanced abilities, because it's all we see is an image of it. So it could very well have the abilities of the Clean-O-Vac and more.
I'm just saying that if we go by the knowledge we do have, that's basically relies on assumption.
So,
I get that, but I think that the naming scheme is the main thing that feels weird, because it would be weird to have the Hug and then the Clean-O-Vac and then Mr. Hugs. You would think that it would be an evolution. So the Clean-O-Vac.
The thing is, okay, so here's the thing. Mr. Hugs seems, if anything, more like a prototype of the Clean-O-Vac, because Mr. Hugs is literally just an old-fashioned vacuum cleaner. One of the ones they literally say is more primitive than the Clean-O-Vac, with eyes and two sticks on.
Basically, yeah. The Clean-O-Vac is significantly more technologically advanced.
So, if anything, I think would be like either the Hug is the first one. It says Mr. Hugs was the prototype of the Clean-O-Vac, an attempt to make a more advanced one that seems more like the Hug, keeping the naming scheme. And then after that is when he made an actual proper one that can like move and has arms with an AI and stuff like that.
I mean, again, we also don't really know how Mr. Hugs works, so it could also have like the abilities. Obviously, like it's a standing vacuum, so it could just be like it has the same abilities as the Clean-O-Vac and possibly more. But also, as a human, you could just use it as a normal vacuum if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So like, it could just be like everything all in one, you know?
Exactly. I know, but I guess it's just because like that's that thing where it comes in is like what could be possible versus what we know is the case and stuff, and I guess that's where I get like kind of hung up on things and stuff.
I think it just makes more sense for this stuff to just be before the Mimic, because like I said, he used the Mimic. He used his old inventions for the Mimic, and he made a vacuum cleaner before the Mimic as well. So having him use all those things for the Mimic, and the vacuum cleaner that we see here also be before the Mimic and be the vacuum that he made originally, I feel like it's just a lot simpler of an explanation, and it just feels like it makes more sense to me.
Then I guess that's where we're just gonna have to agree to disagree because,
Fair
like,
enough.
another thing yes, but just one final thing I want to point out is like
Yeah.
saying that like again going back to the coat rack, that gets into like tech that's used for the physical mimic body, and one is that we don't see Edwin. That's not tech that's stated to have Edwin used to make the physical mimic. He just used the old tech for the computer
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
stuff. So if he used that tech to make the mimic, it would have to be an upgrade he gave the mimic later in the timeline. It doesn't mean that the Kodak had to come before the mimic story. It theoretically could come after because, you know, whatever he used that for in the mimic would have to come after the mimic story.
Yeah, I get that.
And another important thing is that the mimic obviously can expand and contract both its arms and legs, whereas
The mimic doesn't
according
have
to,
its
at
legs
least
at
if we go
first.
by the second half of the mimic story, Team A just takes a random pair of legs and shoves it on there, not like a specially designed one. So again, I feel like that's something Edwin had to have implemented after that.
It could also
somehow.
be that some aspects weren't even used for the mimic, or like by Edwin at least. Like you
Yeah.
said, the mimic doesn't have legs at first, so it could very easily be that maybe he made another animatronic kind of with the expanding and contracting concept, and then maybe that's just what the Team A used to create the mimic. So
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
just so happened
yes,
to have that
but-
ability. Like,
Yes, but there's something that just feels kind of weird about saying that the mimic got expanding on and tracking on plagues just by coincidence.
I mean, yeah, but still, it's
They happen to
technically
randomly
possible.
pick up their legs.
Hey guys, Evan in editing here. I just want to make it clear that I understand fully that this is an ad hoc argument, meaning it's an argument that is just meant to explain away evidence against it, and it's an explanation that doesn't really have evidence on its own. My point is just that we don't know for sure everything about the mimic's history, so this could be an explanation, even though it doesn't have to be. That's all I was saying.
It just feels like these are meant to be showing what was kind of made before the mimic in order to create it and make it into the mimic that we know. So, like, I get what you're saying about a lot of this stuff. Fair reasoning, I understand. I just think it makes more sense for it to all precede the mimic and then be used for the mimic. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that Edwin himself did all this. It could also just be that some of this stuff fell into the hands of the mimic, or like somehow the mimic adopted those things,
Yeah.
whether because of Edwin or not. So like the leg thing, it could just be Edwin made another animatronic with the expanding and contracting tech, and then that is the animatronic that the legs were taken from to give to the mimic. And that's not
That's
a definitive
also-
or like very
yeah.
strong theory, obviously. Like, it's just saying it could have.
Yeah. Personally, I just think with the way Fazbear Entertainment talks about it, at least in the trailer, based on the wording, it sounds more like those features on the mimic were intentional rather than accidental. Like it's
that's fair.
It's an endoskeleton designed to be able to do this and contract and go into all that and stuff.
That's fair. Yeah. And
I mean,
in that case, it could just be like I said before, it was Edwin like adding that tech into the computer, and then the computer like kind of having that sort of technology.
Or I guess theoretically you could always just say he made these inventions before the mimic, but when he upgraded the mimic later, he basically did what he did before with the computer and just got back more old tech he used and started using that as like a basis to like upgrade it further like after that.
here is where
possibly.
I really think it has to be before. Like again, maybe not has to be. Really, would strongly suggest this game is taking place in 1979.
Yeah.
And we know, yes, Edwin. This is after. I would assume this is after the mimic has been created. However,
Well, yeah, obviously.
why would
It has to be.
Right? But we don't really know whether it's after the team goes in the second half of the mimic story or before. And either way, I feel like you give a very small window for Edwin to make 3 crazy inventions.
Yeah,
that
I
are,
agree.
like, taking from the Mimic's technology. I don't know. It just doesn't.
I was
it
kind of
doesn't
going to say
really
something
add
along
up
those
to me.
lines too, because this is when the Mimic is still trying to be retrieved by Fazbear Entertainment, and Edwin should theoretically still be missing by this point, because they're still going in trying to retrieve his tech. So, unless we just end up finding Edwin in the factory and being like, oh shit, you're actually not missing, you're just here the whole time, then, like, in that case, then sure, like, it makes sense for this stuff to be added afterwards. Like, that's fair. But, at the same time,
Yeah.
in that case, that would mean that these things, these, like, inventions, they wouldn't be public. Because they would just
Right.
because Edwin would be in hiding. So it feels weird for these to be created and then sold while Fazbear Entertainment still thinks that he's missing. Because they're trying to retrieve his tech from this place.
See, that's the thing. It says if these were made, my point is that these were made and sold, and that's what gets the place from a small factory to Murray's Costume Manor. And if that's the case, then it's pretty clear in certain ways that Murray's Costume Manor is still connected to Fazbear Entertainment in some way. Like, at least from a business standpoint, they're still associated with each other. So this would be something Edwin did with their knowledge.
Yeah, but then they wouldn't be trying to retrieve his tech because he'd be obligated to give them his tech.
True.
I mean, to be fair, the Mimic wasn't made for Fazbear, but also them breaking into his warehouse to retrieve it is illegal because it's literally his home. So they can't really do that. They can't really just go in and take it if it's still technically his residence.
I mean, like, you say that.
Obviously, it's Fazbear Entertainment. Yeah, that's fair. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like if we don't see Edwin at all, like, just living in the factory still, then it's a problem. Then this all has to be before. If we do find Edwin in the factory, then it's probably still before, in my opinion, but, like, it could be after. Like, I'd at least understand that point of view.
Is your guys' position that the game takes place before or after the second half of the Mimic story?
Now, I feel like it has to be after the second. Okay, see, this is the thing where the timeline is getting really screwy right now. Because, like, I think this is an important thing to note. And this is something that I'm wondering how is even going to get explained in the game. Because Jackie has no legs, but yet the Mimic clearly has legs later in the game
Yes.
when he's wearing other costumes. And obviously the events of Team A don't happen in the midst of this game.
See,
But also simultaneously, if it happens
Right.
before, then that would mean they gave him legs, he lost those legs, then he gets those legs back.
That's exactly one of the reasons why I believe that this takes place between Mimic first half and Mimic second half.
what's interesting to me is that, like you said, Jackie doesn't have legs. And the Mimic doesn't have legs in the first half of the Mimic story. And he gets them after
Yeah.
Team A. And we do see the Mimic walking around in characters that do have legs. So theoretically, he should have to have legs. But
Yeah.
what I've discovered, or not discovered, it's been in teasers. We've seen images of the elephant that show that he is an animatronic and not a costume. So technically speaking, the Mimic could either be in there and just forcing it to walk, meaning his legs don't have to exist or even work. Like, he could just be controlling it, or
Yeah.
it could be walking according to its own free will. Meaning that technically speaking, our player doesn't have to be alone. They could be a part of Team A. It could be before
That's what I was also
it could be
thinking.
while Team A is there for the first time.
I wouldn't even be surprised if the player was part of Team A.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Well, see,
either.
then
It just depends
then
how
my
the start of the
issue
game
comes
happens.
Exactly. See, my issue with that comes in, and then it's like, well, what is the point of this game? Because we know
Because we're
Team
gonna
A
die.
gets
Yeah.
exactly. We're gonna die, and we make basically no developments in the plot whatsoever.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes,
I'm
but
really
just
curious as to how it would
okay,
work. If it
Just
does.
because Team A dies does not mean they didn't retrieve or discover any important information.
Yeah.
Was it established that there were 3 guys on Team A?
I don't remember. I can check
Because
the
if
book,
I
see if I can find it.
remember, the thing is, it says if there are 3 members of Team A, then that's important because if I remember correctly, Team B only finds 2 dead bodies.
Yes,
I know
do
there was
remember
one in
that.
the fridge and one in the closet. Was there more than that?
Yeah.
think
No,
it was just
no,
those 2.
I don't think so. Yeah. But then I just realized another issue we have, though, and that's like, I was gonna say, well, okay, so maybe the 3rd one survived, and that's our character
Yeah, it could be
somehow,
us.
and, you know. Yes, but then I
Yeah.
remembered something else that's important, and that's that in the trailer for Secret of the Mimic, we see dead bodies of previous Fazbear employees stuffed in suits.
Oh.
Yeah.
Meaning there had to have been more than just Team A at this point by the time
Okay.
of that game.
Unless we start the
confuses me.
game, what if we start the game as Team A, and we end up going in, we're in a group, and then we all like split up. Our character goes off and does something else, and then all our teammates die.
That would be interesting.
So then
But,
we could
I-
find them in the suits. Keep in mind, the Team A members
maybe.
the Team A members that we find in the trailer, they're not in a closet or a fridge. Meaning there could very well be more than 3 Team A members, and there could just be a bunch in suits that Dominic just never found.
We need to check that. We need to see if it's ever mentioned how many members there are, because theoretically it could be limited.
If the Mimic gets a higher...
I'm gonna look through, see if I can
If the
find
Mimic has a
it.
higher kill count than William, I'm gonna be so pissed. I can't... I swear.
He already does.
One thing that could support the idea of us being a part of Team A, it's the guy on the tape in the Mimic story. He says it's the week before Christmas, and Team B was sent in January. Meaning that the Mimic story would have to have taken place in 78 if we are in Team
Right.
B.
But
So if
here
we're
is
Team
what's
A, then
fascinating.
it keeps the Mimic story in 1979.
In the trailer, there's snow outside, so it's still that season.
Yeah, so like it being like the week before Christmas works perfectly fine.
Yeah, it could be anywhere. It could also theoretically be after Team B if it's shortly after, because winter lasts for December, January, and February.
And most of
so
March.
So it could also be, yeah. So it could still be sometime in that period as well.
I found something that actually goes against this story being Team A, or the game being Team A.
Okay.
It said, I'll read this here. Terrence is the one who suggested we do what we've done, the voice on the recorder said. Because we weren't given real clear instructions on what to do, we were pretty much at a loss at first. So, that doesn't make sense, because in the game, in the trailer, we are told exactly what to do.
Exactly. We're told exactly what to do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
it says Team. I'm pretty sure Team B is also given vague instructions as well. So we can't. Well, okay. Duh. No shit. We can't. We obviously can't be Team B because we see them all die.
We
So, never mind.
will not be Team B. So again, but Jackie has no legs. So I think that this. So this goes back to my original point. I think that this is in between Team A and Team B. So
Unless
we're talking
we're
about
literally
in between. Yeah.
Actually, no. I was gonna say unless we're before Team A, but that doesn't work because then we'll lose the bodies.
Well, it can't be in between Team A and Team B because after Team A, the Mimic should have legs already, and Jackie doesn't.
Well,
unless
unless
our character is special for some reason.
Wait.
Unless our character is for some reason special and he did get the instructions and nobody else in the team did, but that would be weird.
Gotcha. So do you think this is before Team A?
That doesn't work because
I feel like it can't. That doesn't work. Yes, that would also mean that our character just stops the Mimic, removes his legs, and
yeah, that would be funny.
Okay. Yeah. So
This is just so confusing.
Again, it's
Just
weird
chop the
then
legs off.
Why Jackie has no legs? Because then we're
know.
like, so what happens? Is like they got legs put on, and then Mimic kills all of Team B, and then the legs are gone again. Like okay.
Exactly. And see, here's the important thing, Minich. So another important detail is that, and this is something I actually meant to bring up earlier, but there's something important in the storyteller. Edwin says that he abandoned the factory, and then he traveled the world for 30 years, presumably doing different business things until he ran out of money. Edwin is like broke at the first half of the Mimic story. For him to have the kind of money to last that long and travel around, something had to have happened in between that time for him to get super rich again. And I believe whatever it is Murray's costume manor and what happens with that.
Interesting. Okay, that is a very interesting point. What would you say to that, Evan? Because I know you would disagree with that.
I wasn't listening. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh. Okay,
Right.
so let me explain.
What'd you say? Yeah.
So, in the storyteller, Edwin talks about how after he abandoned the factory, he or left everything behind. He traveled the world for 30 years until he ran out of money, which is what leads him to go back to Fazbear Entertainment. At the start of the Mimic story, he's like extremely poor and just trying to get by and stuff. For him to have the amount of money to be able to travel around for 3 decades and stuff means something had to happen in between that time that got him a shit ton of money again. And I believe that is whatever happens with Murray Costume Manor, which is something we don't see in the Mimic story.
Right. It would also, again, it would also be things like the vacuum and
exactly. That's what I mean. That's what I think would happen after the story. Yeah,
if they were successful, basically.
If they were successful, then that could be one of the things that helps them get a bunch of money again.
Yeah, I think that's plausible. You guys both are, man. Both of your expositions work.
They can go either way.
Yeah, there's always the idea that you're right that he did do something else after he abandoned the costume, or sorry, after he abandoned like his factory. Like he could have done something else, made more inventions, and gotten more money. That works. I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily have to be the inventions that we see in the MCM archives. It could be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I just think those ones specifically make more sense to be before.
Okay. Sure. Another important thing I want to mention that is something that has to happen off camera that we haven't seen is Edwin saying in the storyteller that it's happening again and him being terrified of the Mimic. Something had to have happened between him and the Mimic after he beat up in the story that shows Edwin it's dangerous and stuff.
Yes, I know exactly what happened. Fazbear Entertainment told him what happened to the teams 40 years ago.
Fair enough.
No.
Something happened with Edwin that just was more than just David. Like,
exactly.
Go absolutely insane during that time period.
Mm-hmm.
So,
to be fair, people deal with things in different ways, but that's fair. Yeah. For something else to happen. Yeah.
But I will say that it implies that them using the program in this era is like inherently dangerous, and like Edwin knows how dangerous it is.
Mm-hmm.
Which might be the reason why he's like, oh my goodness, it's happening again. Like a ton more people are dying.
Yes,
which did indeed happen in the trash epilogues. So,
yeah, but then that implies that Fazbear Entertainment just for some reason told Edwin specifically. The Mimic killed a bunch of stuff, and that feels kind of weird.
True. Yeah. Hey.
Also, the way that Edwin reacts to it kind of implies that it was a long time ago, rather than really recent. And the storyteller is probably like the same year, or at most like a year after the epilogues.
Yeah.
Or not necessarily the epilogues, but like at least maybe like a couple years.
Yeah. One final thing I feel like is pretty interesting that I want to point out is there's a lot of posters in Secret of the Mimic and just the fact that the facility is so big itself anyway, that implies Edwin had employees working at MCM. Yeah. Which again means he had a lot of money to pay them or at least Fazbear Entertainment worked with him to pay him for him. And 2, that obviously had to be something that happened after the first half of the Mimic story.
Yeah, it's just weird for that to fit in, you know? Like, I don't know how that would fit.
How that. But one thing some people have suggested is that it's possible that if he did have employees, the thing that happened that made him go crazy, it's happening again like the Mimic did with the Glamrox, is it took over all the animatronics or things in the factory and basically just went on an insane killing spree, murdering all the employees and shit.
Yeah.
And that's why he just lost his mind and feels like this is all my fault. Tons of people are dead because of me.
Yeah.
And it's been my creation and why he's so terrified.
Right. I assume that probably is what happened. It's not this thing didn't just kill his son. It killed a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so curious about the game, dude.
Exactly. I'm so curious what the timeline of all this is going to be and how this all fits in, because it's getting very confusing.
I don't know, man.
Again, it's so weird why Jackie has no legs. And
yeah. And now someone said that because the Mimic has the shape-shifting feature, it is possible he just, like, transformed his legs onto his back and tucked them inside or something.
I mean, he could.
He could.
I mean, he turns into a fucking spider, so...
Yes,
Either
exactly.
that,
grows more legs.
Like, something I will say about Jackie that might explain why... she has no legs. That's completely separate from just the Mimic having no legs.
Yeah.
Is the fact that she comes out of a music box or whatever. Yeah, a music box.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so we know that
you don't need legs, really.
Jack in the box.
Jack in the box.
Yeah, you don't. If you're exactly.
Because you're just going to be in the box.
Right. So I would not be opposed to saying Jackie's like a completely separate animatronic that has a connection to the Mimic later, but doesn't initially.
That's fair. I would say that. Also, a lot of people say that, like, Jackie can't be the Mimic because she's in the music box, but also the Mimic can just, like, enter her at any point, so it doesn't really mean anything.
The Mimic can, like, as we can see, the Mimic, it can literally be, like, anything.
If she has a hole in her back or something that it could enter through somehow, then it could just slip inside her or something like that.
Or also, because she has no legs, it could just be like an opening at the bottom of her waist or something.
Yeah.
And he could just like climb in.
I don't want to imagine that. Too.
He's just pulling on a shirt, basically.
I don't know if that would be allowed.
No, that's the Mimic's equivalent of just pulling on a shirt.
One other thing I did see is if the Mimic, like he can do with this spider thing, if he can just shift his parts around, create new limbs, and just change himself in unrealistic ways. And it says then Jackie's arms do stretch pretty damn far, even for his arm extenders and stuff. So someone suggested that maybe the leg parts kind of like transform and combine with the arms in the way to make them extra extendable and put both their length on there.
I don't know.
Which is kind of an interesting idea. That's kind of weird. I doubt it, but it's just an interesting idea I thought I'd throw out there.
It's cool. I don't know how practical it is, though.
Yeah, I don't know.